ruling party. Some are making cases that if he were to be in the ruling party, this would have not necessarily been the case. And people made jokes, even on social media, saying if he had known, immediately after handing over, he would have been.
What I think is that first, it's important for us to know that now that he has been stripped of his immunity as granted by the Constitution, the EFCC has the right, other security agencies has the powers to arrest him and prosecute him if they find him wanting with respect to any particular crime that was committed during the course of his tenure. Yes, it is true that in Nigeria, once you are in the ruling party, your sins are likely to be forgiven, but that doesn't give other people, immunity, so to say, from being arrested and prosecuted in accordance with the law. I think what is important is whether or not there is something. The EFCC has evidence. The EFCC has garnered sufficient evidence against him. Whether they have what it takes to really succeed in an action in a criminal charge against him. I think that's what is really important. At the end of the day, we all will have some sentimental reasons why we want somebody to go scot-free. Let us start from somewhere. We all know that, we know in this country that the governors had under the canopy of immunity to commit all sorts of evil, particularly financial misappropriation. I'm not saying that Obiano is guilty, but I'm saying investigated, done sufficient work. Because last I heard is that they're not going to disclose what he's being arrested for because they're still investigating. That's a very bad signal. It just shows that the reason why you're arresting somebody, if you are saying after almost 24 hours that you cannot disclose the reason why somebody's been arrested, that sends a bad signal out there, and it might confirm what some people are saying, that perhaps it's because it's not in the opposition, in the ruling party, that he's been arrested the way he has been arrested.
What Barrister Chukwu said earlier on, that he's not necessarily surprised at this because this seems to be the modus operandi of the EFCC and sometimes even the DSS. We hear about these arrests. We hear, it's spread across the front pages of our newspapers, but then he's talking about the follow-through here. So I'm going to pose that question to you. Why is there a difficulty in the follow-through? I know you've talked about the fact that these investigations needed to have started earlier on, but here we are. Things are not done the way you expect it to be done. But why do you think that the EFCC finds it very difficult to follow through with these cases, and half the time we never see the end of it?
And the proper things are not done. The investigation is not shoddily done, and when charges are filed, you see that the courts will throw most of these charges out. Which is why for so many years, a lot of governors have been arrested and not much has been done in terms of conviction, because at the end of the day, political motivation is actually the reason behind some of this investigation. And secondly, the EFCC, I made the point earlier that you are arresting somebody who has been in office for 8 years. And you arrested him yesterday, and today you are still saying that, you cannot disclose the reason why he has been arrested. That clearly shows that you have nothing. That clearly shows that you haven't done your homework. The EFCC and other security agencies must, learn to do their homework properly before people are arrested. Otherwise, you are going to continue to have, the same issue of people being let go by the court because of, shoddy investigation by the police. I think we need to find a way to, properly train, our security personnel on, investigation. But with respect to the EFCC states, for years with the security votes they have embezzled and other monies they have taken without proper accountability, they are able to, play along with the system and prevent these prosecutions from seeing the light of the day.
Let me come back to you, Barrister Chukwu, just to pick up from where he stopped. He's talking about the follow-through issue here, and he's made a case, and I'm wondering if he's saying that half the time these things are politically motivated, and then one looks at the EFCC, we're always clamoring for strong institutions, which we're yet to even scratch the surface in this part of the world. But how does that affect the EFCC and its ability to carry out its job to the later? Again, we say that our security agencies are able to bark, but they're not able to bite, meaning that they may be at the whims and caprices of whoever is running the government. So how can we take seriously these allegations of money laundering, or let's say stealing from public coffers, or like, for example, in the case of Governor Obiano, they've talked about mismanagement of funds, and especially the Paris Club Fund and the security votes, which nobody ever knows how much it is. Where does that leave the EFCC in all of this?
Okay, to me, I think that I will say that EFCC does not have the capacity to deal with this type of crime. Because over time, we have seen not 1, not 3, not 10, not 15. It has become like a normal thing for EFCC. Once a public officer exhausts or the tenure expires, the next thing EFCC swoops on him and is possibly arrested, kept for a few days, taken to court, granted bail. The politician comes back to the society and never allows the society to rest with the enormous money that they have pilfered or fleeced from the government treasury. To me, I will conclude that EFCC, because like I said before, you can't continue to do the same thing. You can't continue to do the same thing. You wait until when they leave office and you now invited them and you start to investigate. That's not how it should be done. To me, I will think that if Nigerians are serious, if the legislators, the executive and the executive are serious, we should take away these powers from EFCC and send this power to try political or public office holders before a special court. Call it a tribunal.
But there has to be a law enforcement, but law enforcement has to do the arresting. So when you say the powers be taken away from EFCC, they're not the courts, of course. You're talking about a tribunal of sorts. But law enforcement does have a role to play, and that's why the EFCC was created in the first place, right?
I know what I'm saying. If you take away, if you remove EFCC, like it does appear like that Nigeria has relegated Nigerian police to the background when it comes to politically motivated crimes. It does appear to me that the Nigerian police has been relegated to the background. In the same vein, we can allow, after all, at the beginning of a tenure, the politician is meant to take an oath, is meant to appear before the code of conduct, where he signs respective forms. Why can't we also make it, have a law that stipulates that immediately the tenure, in fact, few days to the end of the tenure, the same politician goes back to the code of conduct and try to look at the papers and look at all that has transpired and see, once there's any infraction, the public office holder is taken to a special court. Then from the special court, that will be like a tribunal that must not exceed 90 days or 120 days. So that this issue of EFCC swooping on a politician, arresting, talking the politician or the immediate past public office holder, and a few months.
Who's going to chair that tribunal? Who's going to sit at that tribunal? Because we're complaining about, shortages.
The law should provide that the person that must be the judge or the chairman of that tribunal must have the same qualification with that of a high court of Nigeria. So that the issue of political office holder pilfering with public funds can be done within 90 days or 120 days. If we're able to do that and the politician is convicted within 90 days or 120 days. That will serve as a deterrent to others. It will make the others to sit up. People will now know that once you get into serve, that as soon as you leave office, within 90 days or 120 days, the immediate past governor of Anambra State, give it in the next 1-2 months. He will be granted bail. Of course, it's a bailable offense. The next thing he will start to junkate all over the world, enjoying whatever, and again, hire lawyers and ensure that the judicial process is somehow delayed. Look at the governor of Abia State, the former governor of Abia State. He's still there. He's serving in the Senate, still getting more money from Nigeria. This is a man that was accused, that was alleged to have pilfered from the coffers of Abia State. Today, he is the minority leader in the Senate, and he continues to enjoy much more money than the ordinary Nigerian that elected him to serve, wherein he did not serve. And according to what EFCC said, that at the end of the day, he ended up pilfering with Abia State. Bell must not impede the investigation.
About the whole judiciary.
No,
You're
I'm not talking
implicating
about,
them.
no, I didn't say that he will use the money to induce judiciary.
So what exactly did you mean by implication?
He uses the money, hire 20, 30 senior advocates of Nigeria, bring them to court, bring more lawyers to court. As a senior advocate is coming, he comes with 2 more. At the end of the day, he has 150 lawyers that are standing, that are defending him. Once a judge makes a pronouncement, they file an interlocutory application at the Court of Appeal. By the time that they go through that interlocutory application at the Court of Appeal, the matter is delayed for another 1-2 years. They come back again, assuming if the appeal rules against them, they come back again and start with the process. Once a judge makes another action or takes another action, or the other party files or argues on a particular issue, they go back to appeal from appeal court to Supreme Court. By the time they come back, 7, 8, 10 or more years.
Okay, let me go back. Let me go back to Elvis.
Because he has money. And sorry, whilst that was still going on, he continues to earn his pension from the state government. Even as Obiano is there, even if he spends 6 months there or 1 year, the pension from Anambra State, which he created for himself, will still be running. What kind of system is that? That a man that is alleged to have pilfered or fleeced the money belonging to the people is giving more money by government.
Okay, we'll come back to talk about that. We'll come back to talk about that. Let's put a pin there. Let me come to Elvis. Elvis, Barrister Chukwu seems to be, giving us very interesting points, but I want us to focus our attention on the EFCC as a body. We keep calling these bodies independent of these to the common man.
The biggest challenge we have with, the EFCC is the fact that, yes, the law is strong. Somebody was heading. Typically, the law is that, when the president appoints the head of the EFCC, it's supposed to be subject to ratification, by the National Assembly. But like I said, with respect to the former EFCC chairman, we had a situation where the president kept him on. The strength or the strength of the president. You need to create institutions that are independent, institutions that have capacity, institutions, EFCC, not just in the EFCC, but other security. I think the core of the problem is that it's become a culture in this country. It's culture of impunity. They are part of they are Nigerians. And so we have all learned this, we have all inculcated this habit of, allowing just one person to determine what happens. We don't have, that institutional culture that can engender, an effective response in terms of investigation and prosecution. So it's more like a cultural thing. I mean, somebody who's, you have politicians who have stolen money, for example. When they go to their villages, they are celebrated. People lie on the street, people wait for hours to see them. because they have money to throw around. It's a cultural thing, and we have to go back to that, because there's no amount of law, even if you amend the law today to create a special tribunal or to, appoint, the system, will still be corrupted because of, a culture that has become, the culture of the people eventually determines how they respond to issues, how they respond to, for example, the issue of investigation.
Okay.
If the society is so, not accommodating, some of these actions by political office holders and other people who are flouting the laws across the country, then you will see that reflected in the way and manner the investigation is done, in the way and manner prosecution is done, in the way and manner the court even handles it. So it's a systemic problem, and we need to address that system, rather than just picking up one or two issues.
Unfortunately, time is not our friend, but I want to say thank you, Barrister Obinna and Elvis Asia. Thank you so much for speaking with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you all for staying with us. We'll take a short break. When we come back, the Northeast Business Forum has purchased the PDP presidential form for the former Vice President, Atiku Abubakar. We'll talk about this after the break.
Life can be fun and rewarding, but it also comes with some risk. As in business, you win some, you lose some. And that's why you need to be wise in the choices you make. It's like placing a bet. Again, you need to be wise. Wise in choosing an innovative platform with the highest market options and highest odds ever. That's why Winners Golden Bet, the leader in online, in-shop, virtual, and live sports betting, gives you enhanced platforms that offer you the best chances of winning. For betting on live soccer matches, live dog races, and virtual games. Winners Golden Bet is your best bet. Instant payment of winnings guaranteed. Play online or in any of our numerous shops nearest to you.
Hey guys, be wise. Play on Winners Golden Bet.
Winners Golden Bet, the wise choice.
Barely 24 hours after the People's Democratic Party opened the sale of nomination and expression of interest form for the 2023 general elections, the Northeast Business Forum has purchased the form for former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. Speaking shortly after receiving the presidential form, Atiku said that in 2018, some young men contributed money and bought a nomination form for him, and that he was emotional about it. He added that the challenges before Nigerians are enormous and that its unity is threatened. He stated that the economy and security were in bad state, adding that the challenges require the unity of everybody within the country. Well, joining us to discuss this is Babashola Adegbuyi, a political analyst, and Dayo Kayode, a political technocrat. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Good evening to you. May we have.
Great.
Thanks for having me.
Great. Babashola, let me start with you before I go to Mr. Kayode. This is not the first time the Vice President has been vying for this office. He's run for this office many times, and again, he's throwing his hat into the ring. In fact, one of the tickets. Now, this has raised a lot of concerns for people as to the internal democracy within the People's Democratic Party. But let's talk about the man, Atiku Abubakar.
Okay, thank you once again. Atiku Abubakar actually has been contesting for this position since 1993.
under the platform of Social Democratic Party and person. They have been in back as a vying for this position. The question now is, has it always been reviewing his political actually